guys, welcome back for another video. I'm Jess and I'm one of the designers here at Sizzix. Today I'm going to jump straight into it because I want to showcase to you guys some of our brand new layered stamps, how they work and how they work with our amazing Stencil Stamp Tool I've got here. And I'm just going to jump straight into it and show you some fun techniques and how they work and how you can use them, and yeah, different tips and tricks before I show you guys all the stamps and all the projects and all that fun stuff and inspirational makes that all the designers have done as well. So you may have seen a few videos using the Stencil and Stamp Tool from Pete, Alexis, Josh, all the designers. I think I've done a little bit of content, so if you need a little bit more inspiration on the tool in general, then head on over and check those videos out, particularly if you want to see the stenciling portion, but I'm going to show you guys how to stamp with it. So when you are stamping with our Stencil and Stamp Tool, you want to use this top plate. So this is our stamp plate and this hinges into that top bit there. So just that hinge, it slots in, and it means that this is not going to move other than obviously the motion of it opening and closing. So it doesn't really wiggle from side to side. It means that when you pop your stamp on there, it's going to stay in place and it's going to be perfectly positioned every single time, so you can repeat stamp. So I'm going to pop a piece of card onto my stamp base, and this actually has a sticky grid sheet on there, and this just peels off and sticks back on. And this is tacky, so this is sticky, so it means that when I paste my cardstock or my card or whatever I'm working on down, it's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to move, and it means that that's securely in place, and then when I put my stamp on the stamp plate, that's securely in place too, and it means that we get perfect precision every single time, which is fantastic. Exactly what we want when we're stamping, particularly with layered stamps as well. So the first one that I'm going to use is pine branches. This is lovely pine cone design, as you can see. I have used it before, and not to me, I haven't washed it so you can see the colour on it, but I'm going to show you guys how you use it. So when you are working with layer stamps, you'll usually have about 3, maybe 4 layers, and these are the pine branches ones. I'm just going to show you guys the base portion of this. There are obviously other elements like the foliage and the branches and things, but I just want to show you guys how you layer up a piece of like the layered element basically. So you can see how you've got your main part here, so this is your base piece. Then you've got your next piece, which has a little bit of detail, slightly bigger detail, and then your finer detail on top. And it's really, really important when you're working with layered stamps to work from light to dark. So I'm going to start with a light tone, a medium tone, and then a dark tone. So obviously then it means that my darker tones are going to show up on my lighter bases. If you start with a really dark colour and try to add lighter colours over the top, those lighter colours aren't going to show up. So just keep that in mind, because that is super, super important when we're working with any layered stamps. Okay, so let's grab our stamp plate. And something to mention actually, this stamp plate has 2 sides on it. So it has a smooth side, and then it has a side with a grid on, which this is slightly raised. You can probably hear it as I run across, but that side is completely smooth. It's important to have your smooth side facing downwards, so you pop your stamps on the smooth side, because your stamps are going to stick to it way, way better, and they're not going to fall off, whereas the grid side they are, and the grid is just for alignment purposes basically. So make sure you have it the smooth side down, sorry. And then let's pop our stamp where we want it. And then you press down and your stamp will stick to the smooth side. So it means that it's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to fall off, whereas I stuck it to the other side, it wouldn't adhere properly and there's a risk of it falling off. So just bear that in mind. Now we can do the fun bit, so we can add some colour. So I'm just going to use some Distress inks to start with. I'm going to start with a really light brown colour. So this is tea dye. So a really nice light brown. And what I like to do is I like to just press the ink onto my stamp. And what I like to do with these base pieces, so the big chunky pieces that are the first ones that I put down, I like to create a little bit of a watercolour effect with those. And because Distress inks react with water, they're a really good thing to use to create that effect. So I just take a water spritzer and just spray it just a couple of times. You don't need much water, you don't want to drench it. And then I'm just going to take some kitchen roll, some paper towel, and just wipe it around the edges. So I'm just going to get that water off my stamp plate. Then pop it back into the hinge and press downwards, and you can see the colour sort of melt together, and you get that gorgeous watercolour effect, and it really fills out that space really, really nicely. If I wanted it a little bit stronger, I could go back over the top and not add any water, and this would give me a little bit more of a concentrated effect. So you can definitely do that. And I'm going to compare the different inks and different finishes you can get as I talk through some of the other stamps. But if you did want a stronger finish, then you might want to use something like a permanent pigment ink or something like that, or a distress oxide, which are a little bit more opaque. So those are definitely options if you want something a little bit stronger, whereas I quite like it with this kind of watercolour effect. So we've got that first layer down. So now we move on to the second layer, and you literally just want to place that over the top and align it. Now for this you want to get really close, don't be afraid to get really close. I'm probably blocking the overhead camera with my big fat head, but make sure it's nice and aligned, and then make sure my stamp plate is the right way around, press down, and it's going to be perfectly in place. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that off, and then I'm going to use some pigment inks. So these are just archival pigment inks. So this is coffee, just because I want it to be slightly more opaque. So I find these are a little bit stronger in colour because they are pigment inks comparison to the distress ink. So it just depends what you want and what kind of finish you want. And this is obviously a little bit darker in colour than the base colour we used. So just make sure that's nice and firm, and then pop that down. So obviously if I wanted to go over, if I feel like some of the little bits I wanted to go over again, I can add more ink on and then press it again, and it's going to be in the exact same place, which is great because we get that precision every single time. But I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to move on to the very last colour. Again, align that. So it is, the concept is easy, and it's pretty easy to get used to. The tool's really easy to use. You might just find that maybe aligning them takes a little practice, getting your perfect layer of inks down, maybe getting it nice and even. It might take a bit of practice, but that's the fun of crafting and creating. So don't be afraid to just keep having a go, keep having a try, and you'll get better and better and better every single time. So, but this tool does make it super easy if you are a beginner. So I'm just finishing off that last colour, and I was just going over with just a couple of darker tones. So I actually went over with a dark brown and then just a little bit of black because I really want this to show up. And then again, give that a press, and then you have that final pine cone. So I can just peel this off because I've done all 3 layers. I don't need to add anything else to that. And then you have that final pine cone design. So obviously I can go over the top with those foliage elements if I wanted to, but you can see how those 3 different layers have worked, and it actually looks like that gorgeous kind of artistic pine cone. So that is that one. I did want to show you guys using another stamp and just showing you a little bit more of maybe a fun, playful technique. Sorry, got a little frog caught in my throat there. But for this one I wanted to use the gift wrap. So this one is really, really nice because again you do have those layered elements. This one is fantastic for using all year round. So obviously you can make it for the festive period, but you can also use it for birthdays and things like that. So I think this one is going to work for you guys, whatever occasion you're making for. And this one's really fun because you can play around with lots of fun colours, which I love. So for this one, what I really wanted to show you guys, how you can actually put several stamps onto one pass, basically. So when you don't need to just stamp one thing at a time, you can stamp multiples, and this is a really good one to do it with because you can create like a little stack of presents, and it looks so good. So let's just get some of these presents out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these base pieces. So these are again just the plain sort of bottom base pieces. And I'm going to arrange these. Oh, let's pull that out. I'm going to arrange these on my card how I want them. So like a little stack of presents. So it doesn't have to be super perfect. You can arrange them however you like. Completely up to you, but you can do them all in one. So I'm going to place them there, pop my stamp plate down, and that's going to pick them all up. So it means that I don't have to individually stamp each present. I can do them all at once, which if you're batch making, obviously for Christmas, you're probably sending out multiple cards, and you probably don't want to hand make every single one of them if they're going to take you a while. This is going to save you tons of time. So with this, I'm going to bring in some of those distress inks again, but I'm going to go more blues. Let's move some of this to the side. Like blues and purples. And what I basically want to do is, again, pressing those inks right onto the stamp, but this time I'm going to blend some colours together. So just kind of pressing a couple of colours onto the stamps and just letting them kind of blend together by themselves, although I am going to add some water over the top and that'll help it as well. So let's just mix those kind of colours together and kind of think about your occasion, what kind of colours you want to mix. So obviously blues and purples work really nicely together, pinks and oranges, I always think look really, really nice together. There's loads of different options, but obviously it might depend on, I don't know, the occasion or something like that. So whatever you want to use, just have a bit of a play. That's what I like about these gift wrap ones, is because you can just be a little bit more creative, whereas a pine cone is a pine cone. You know, it's pretty much brown, so there's not much playfulness you can have with that one, but this one you can do a lot. So I just literally just spray it, and you can see how those colours kind of melt together and sort of blend. Again, just take away that excess. And again, I'm going for that kind of watercolour effect. So placing that down, give it a press, and you'll see those colours blend together when you press down. Okay, and pull it away. If you're not happy with places, you can go in and add a little bit more colour in areas, but actually I really like how they've kind of blended together, so I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to move on to my next layer. So again, for my next layer, I want it a little bit more opaque, so I'm going to move on to those pigment inks. And the next layer of the gift wrap one is these kind of like patterned elements almost. So like things like the dots on there. What else have we got? We've got squiggles. You don't have to put something on every single one. I think I might leave that little one in the middle plain. Again, making sure this is the right way round. And with this one, I think it's a really nice place to start if you are new to layer stamps, because you can kind of get away with them being slightly off if you've not aligned them perfectly, because it kind of gets this kind of hand-drawn feel, which is really, really nice. So again, I'm just using those pigment inks that I used for the second and third layer of the pine cone. And I'm literally just going to press those into those other elements. I'm going to pop a little bit of purple on there, and then some bright blue in the middle, I think. And then press that down. And there we go. See, with these pigment inks, they're just a little bit stronger, which helps, but you could totally do this with distress inks, guys. Like, there's no major rules. I'm just giving you kind of a couple of tips and techniques that I use, but again, it's all experimenting, so you can just have a little bit of fun with it. So for this next layer, for the top layer with this one, I wanted to show you guys how you can use something different other than just plain inks. I think I've got one of the other little bows here. There we go. And I want to use some embossing powder. So I'm just going to place these little bows down. I'm just having a play to see which ones I like. I might just do these 3. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with just those 3 there. So if you want to use embossing powder, you still want to use the stamps in the same way with the stamp plate, but you want to use some of our clear embossing ink. So obviously it's got no colour to it, which means that the powder is going to show up. So what you want to do is you want to press that in the same way as a normal ink, and it's going to cover those stamps. And then pop this in. Oh, that's something else actually I wanted to mention. I'm taking this out every time I want to ink it up, but you can just have it still in like that, and you can press it down and ink it up that way. You can have it horizontally, vertically, whichever way you want. So, or more like portrait and landscape, not horizontally and vertically, sorry. But that's just, I'm pulling it off just because it's easier to show you on camera. So again, just pressing that down, and you will barely see an outline of where that has inked. You won't really see it much, but we're going to go over the top now. So I can peel that off because that is my last layer, and I'm going to bring in my funnel tray and some silver embossing powder and just sprinkle that over the top. Now we have embossing powder in loads of different colours. There's gold, copper, all sorts of different colours. So it's completely up to you of what colour scheme you're kind of going for. But I'm going for silver. And what you can do is, I haven't actually got one, but for some areas that maybe picked up some of the embossing powder that you don't like it, you can just go over with a clean paintbrush and you can just wipe those off, or just give it a bit of a shake to sort of take off the excess if you feel like there's little bits that need going over again. And you can just keep doing that until you're happy, okay? And then once you're happy with where the embossing powder is, you can then take your heat gun. So I've got our heat tool with the dual heat setting. And I'm just going to pop it on the highest one, and you'll see the embossing powder melt, and it'll change colour and it'll get nice and shiny. Okay, literally takes a few seconds, and then when I hold that up, you can see how just on some of those presents where we've added those bows, you've got that little bit of shine and shimmer, which I think is fantastic for any celebration, but especially for Christmas and for the festive period, because a little bit of sparkle is always needed this time of year. So that is that. I think to finish it off, all I would probably do, let me grab one of my finished ones. Oh, they've all fallen on the floor. But all I would do is I'd trim that down. I'd use one of our sentiments that also can be used with the stencil and stamp, and then back it onto some card, and you have something that looks like that. So you've got those gorgeous blended colours. This one's actually got no embossing powder on it, so I've just used black ink over the top there. But how amazing would that be, and how easy would it be to batch make these and make multiples, because particularly with this present one, you can stamp all of those presents all in one, which is fantastic if you're making 20, 30 plus cards. Rather you than me. I don't think I even have 30 friends that I would send Christmas cards to, but it's always a nice gesture to send a handmade card. So what I'm going to do now, as I've made a little bit of mess, I'm going to clean up, and then we'll grab all of the layered stamps and some of the fabulous makes, and I'll share with you some fun inspiration for those. Okay guys, so I've tidied up, I've got a nice clean workspace, so I can show you guys, obviously run through all the layered stamps and show you probably what you're most excited to see, which is all of the projects and inspiration that myself and all the other designers have made using these. So starting off where we kind of finished was the gift wrap. So obviously I showed you guys how you can stamp multiple ones at the same time. You obviously have the bigger sections, then the more detailed elements, and then the bows to top it off. So you can layer them up all in one. So this one's got some gold embossing powder on with some of the detailed elements. You can do them all in one colour. You don't have to blend the different inks. So these ones are probably a little bit more festive, whereas something like this, a little bit more bright toned. I was talking about could use all year round, so this would be great for birthdays or even any celebration really. I think that would be really nice. I wanted to show you guys these ones. So these ones are obviously not in that stacking formation that I showed you in the demonstration. These ones are just taking that big one, and I think really effective how you can just align 3 presents and do like a slimline card, which is a really nice way of using this layered stamp. Really simple but really effective, I think. That one's a little bit more festive. This one's a little bit more all year round with those brighter colours. And I think I've just got this last one, which I believe Josh did, and what he did is he outlined some of these with a black fine liner and created that kind of sketchy look, and I think that really works with those kind of watercolour style inked presents. So that one, I didn't want to sit on it for too long because obviously we have shown that one. I have shown you guys how it works and a couple of ideas. Again, same with this one with the pine branches. I showed you guys how to layer up that lovely pine cone, but there are obviously other elements in there like the fern, the foliage, or the twigs and the little berries, so you can really add a lot of detail with this one, which I really like. So this one you can create like a repeat pattern. I love this card. It's just really nice to kind of play around with using them as like background elements rather than the main kind of forefront feature, but still really super effective. So again, with that kind of watercolor effect in the background, then layering it up from light to dark. Then we've got this one here, which again is the same, but kind of a little bit more focused on that layered stamp. And then I even went over the top of this one with a little bit of crystal glaze. So you might be able to see there's just a little bit of shine on sort of the edges of the pine cone and then maybe some of the berries. It's really subtle, but I wanted to have it like almost like glistening water or snow on the edges of those berries and that pine cone. So I really like that effect, and it's quite nice to create almost like a framed picture element with that one. And then I think this one was Josh made this one. So we've got some lovely inking techniques around the edges there, and he's even played around with changing up the colours on the foliage elements as well. So again, all using the exact same layered stamp, but 3 very different effects, but all really effective, I think. So that one is the pine branches. Let's move on to something not quite as festive. This one is sunflower. This one is beautiful. It's so bright and summery, and I know we're still in the cold months if you're in the UK, or I suppose this part of the hemisphere. But we will be in spring and summer before you know it. And this one is a really good one because I've actually got some boards to show you guys how the layers work and how you can use different inks. So I wanted to highlight it with this one. So this kind of shows you guys how the steps work from A to the final piece, basically. This one has a few more steps than the ones that I showed you, like the pine cone and the gifts one. So, but you can see how literally working from light to dark. So we've got the lightest yellow working with the slightly darker yellow, adding the centers with the brown, the black, and then the foliage over the top. Really works. So again, this is a more simpler one with no foliage, just literally the sunflower, and it really shows you guys how to work with layered stamps and what process to do it in, and the kind of tones that you want to work with at the beginning and the kind of tones that you want to add at the end. So I just wanted to show you guys that. And I'll show you guys this that I made that highlights the different kind of inks that you can use. There's obviously more inks outside of the ones that I have shown here, but I want to show you the kind of different finishes that you can get. So this one here is kind of using those pigment inks, those really opaque permanent pigment inks. So kind of like, I've just got some here. So kind of like those archival inks that I used for most of the second and third layers of the ones that I demoed for you. The middle one here is Distress Oxides. Now, Distress Oxides are in that same family with Distress Inks. They are just slightly more opaque. So they still react to water in the same way, whereas your pigment ink, your permanent ink, will not. It is permanent, it's waterproof, it will not react to water, so you can't do that watercolour effect with these kind of things. But with the oxides, they do react to water. They're just a little bit more opaque. Kind of, you can probably see on the ink, it's a little bit more opaque, and it works on darker tone cardstock. So if you're wanting to stamp onto darker tone cardstock, you're going to want to use something like the oxides. And then this one here is those Distress Inks that I showed you in the demonstration. So again, a little softer, a little bit more watercolour vibes, and a little bit more blendable. So those are the kind of three finishes that I just wanted to highlight while I was going through these, in case you have one or the other at home, you're not quite sure which one to use, you have all three. Obviously you can play around with them, but I just wanted to highlight that. And then I have this gorgeous make, which I think Pete has made, and he's just added one of our sentiments there, and then that gorgeous sunflower with some distressed edges. So really, really nice, and you can use that for multiple occasions. I think that sunflower will be a real staple in everyone's collection. Then going back to a little bit more festive, I've just got two more to run through. So this one is Folk Tree. This one is a really nice simple one if you're new to layered stamps. This one's really nice because it's literally just those 3 layers. There's no extra elements, it's all in one big piece. And again, this one would be really, really great if you are batch making cards, because it's not super, super fiddly. And when you make it up, it ends up with something like this. So again, you do want to consider your light to dark tones, but it's not quite as important because a lot of the elements are kind of separate and not fully layered on top of each other. The only things you need to be cautious of are like the detail on the little reindeers and things like that. And that's probably a little bit more prominent on this one, where we've done it in a black. So I believe actually this one I did with Distress Oxides. So that probably shows you the difference. I think all of these were done with Distress Oxides actually. So that can show you they're a little bit more opaque, a little bit brighter, and you get that kind of really bright, fun feel. And I love that Folk Tree. Like I said, it's really simple design, but really bold, and it kind of takes up all of your cards, so you don't really need to think too much when you're making a card with this one. So that one is Folk Tree. And then the last layered stamp, I will talk about some of the sentiments, but the last layered stamp is a Floating Snowflakes. I love the name of this one, it's so cute. And again, very wintry, very festive, but you have tons of different options with this one. You can have them all separate, you can layer them on top of each other, you can do different tones, you could probably do some gorgeous embossing powders with these ones. And if you need a little bit of help on how to layer these ones up, there's actually a little bit of a guide of certain ones that layer up on top of certain ones, so there's a little bit of inspiration on the back there, but let me just show you a couple of makes here. So this one is really gorgeous, really simple, with just the same kind of colours used for those snowflakes. This would be a good one if you wanted to stamp quite a lot in one as well, because you could probably do a few on one layer and then layer it up. You could probably only do 2 layers if you wanted to, so it's pretty quick and easy, this one. And then we've got a sentiment in the centre. And then we've got this one with all those different colours, all different kinds of layers, and you can have a lot of fun creating like a repeat background with this one, which is really, really nice. I think this one would really work nicely with one of our stencils as well. We've got a snowflake stencil, and if you're making a background with that one, you could add in these smaller snowflakes to kind of finish it off. So that is all of the layered stamps. The only thing I wanted to quickly highlight, I'm not going to run through them all because there's so many of these sentiment stamps, but I just wanted to show you guys, you've probably seen quite a few of the sentiment stamps on all the projects that I've used, but there is a selection. I'm literally just going to fan them out. There's a selection of these sentiment stamps. So there's 2 festive ones, and then there is all of these Sunnyside sentiments, and they're numbered, I believe, from number 1 to, I think there's 11 of them. I've got up to 10 here. So that's just a selection of them. You get some really nice large sentiments, loads of different phrases, whether you're going more festive or you're going more everyday. Really nice positive vibes. These are all, I think most of them are designed by Pete. So these ones are Pete and the festive ones are Olivia Rose, just for reference. But these are great for every single card make that I've showed you below. They stamp beautifully and you can do a lot of fun things, whether you're just stamping them, let me just show you, just clean sentiments, literally just in black ink, or you can do some really nice kind of overlapped, almost like shadow effects. So this one's with slight grey underneath, and then we've got ones with colour overlapping as well. So there's just some fun techniques there you can play with if you want to play around with your sentiment stamping. But like I say, most of them have had, the project that I've shown you have had those sentiment stamps on, but just a couple to show you how you can use them. These are actually with our stencils. So if you're using our Stencil Stamp Tool for the layered stamps, you can also use it for the stencils, and then you can stamp the sentiment over the top. So 2 in 1 with that one, but I just wanted to highlight those, that they are also perfect to work with our layered stamps and with our tool. So I think I've run through everything. Let's just pop some of these while I'm saying goodbye, because they're just really pretty and I want to show them off. But that is everything from me today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check out all the other videos on our brand new Stencil and Stamp Tool, whether you're wanting to look more into how the tool works, whether you're wanting to look more into the stencils, or you've loved the layered stamps. There's tons of inspiration from myself and the other designers across all of our social platforms. And of course, if you get your hands on any of this, or you make anything for the festive period or any occasion for that matter, we love to see it. So please leave me a comment and an image down below, or share it across our socials using my Sizzix story. We love to see it. So yeah, again, thank you so much for joining me. Can't wait to see you in the next one, but until then, stay safe and keep crafting. Thanks, bye.